loves regulation in this room? Can I have a show of hands? Really? No, really. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. More than I was expecting. Esther, may I please ask you to join me on stage? So, my name is Janet. It's a giant honor to be here presenting to such an incredibly esteemed audience. Before we get going, I'd like to ask everybody to stand up for a moment, please, and have a little shake, because we've been sitting for a long time. So let's just shake out, yes, let's do some stretches. Let's get that energy flowing again. Because what we're here to do this weekend, this week, is create an unstoppable energetic force for beneficial AGI. So you've all had a good shake. You've all had a good shake. Now wait, stay up. We've got 2 minutes of energy work. So what I'm going to ask you all to do is soften your knees, feel your weight down through the soles of your feet, down into this beautiful land that we're so fortunate to be in. And feel that energy coming up from the ground, up through your body. Raise it. You can follow me, you don't have to just watch. Raise your energy up through your heart, through your head, and up to the sun and up to the stars as we connect with the higher good of humanity, which we're here to serve today. Now, bend your knees slightly and raise the earth energy. And feel that energy raise, and then ground it again. We're going to do this 3 times, grounding the earth energy. Once more, feel that energy coming from the earth, the ocean, the trees, the mountains, and ground the energy. And one more, energy grounding. Lift our spirits and ground that joy and that energy into the earth. And now we're going to bring that beautiful earth energy together with the sun energy and the stars. And we're going to pour that beautiful solar light down through our aura, down through every cell, every molecule in our body, as we give thanks for the joy of the day, the beauty of the sun, the life that we all enjoy here on the planet today, and our loving efforts together in this conference. One more time, raise the earth energy up to the sun and feel that radiance pour down through every molecule of your being. Thank you. Now you may all sit. Thank you. Right, let's talk about regulation. I know, right? Who loves regulation now? Have we any more? That's good to see. Good morning, Panama. It's a real honor to be here. So a little bit about my background. Ben has touched upon it. What I would say at the outset, I am not a policymaker. I've never been a policymaker. But we do have some extremely esteemed policymakers in the audience here today. So I would encourage you, if anything is thought-provoking on the regulation side, please do reach out. We have Marcus Fisher, representative of the UK Parliament. We have Amal Moussaoui, representative here from the US State Department. We have Noureddin Yagoubi, advisor to President Macron in France and responsible for the EU AI Act, if I'm not mistaken. And we also have the very esteemed Pete Warren with us, who has been exploring the boundaries of ethics, responsible use of AI, long before anybody even thought it was going to be a thing. So we have hugely esteemed participants here, and we have an opportunity to take a fresh look at regulation. And that's what I'm going to canter through for you here today. So just a little bit about my background. I worked in regulation in banking for about 10 years. years. I was Chief Operating Officer of a credit risk function in an investment bank in the UK, overseeing a $50 million regulatory change budget. I was head of strategic change for the Regulatory Affairs Group at Royal Bank of Scotland, where the industry suffered the worst ever banking IT meltdown in the entire history of the industry, which was in 2012, when the Royal Bank of Scotland, NatWest and Ulster Bank technology payment systems failed catastrophically, leaving 6.5 million people unable to access their bank accounts and manage all regulatory communication during those first 4 or 5 days of absolute crisis. And what that has given me, that experience has given me a respect and a understanding of the necessity of good regulation, of systems and controls. It was the technology that failed, but it was the human systems of testing and change control which actually led to that failure. And in that failure, we saw, mothers unable to feed their children. We saw people stuck in a car in a forecourt at a petrol station, having filled their car and unable to leave because they couldn't pay it. We saw mortgages unable to be paid. We saw huge distress. And so, one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about appropriate regulation, systems and controls of technology, is that those of us leading this AI technology revolution, we have a ginormous responsibility in our hands. And that responsibility is to ensure that nobody is caused distress. Yes, we want to see transcendence to a whole new era of equity, of inclusion, of fairness, but at the very base level, nobody to be distressed. So I posit that regulation is a good thing in this space. I published a few papers. I did one on, I was a member of the Association of Financial Markets Europe AI Task Force. We published a paper on ethical use of AI in capital markets in 2018. This was in the early days of ethics of AI. Everything we were doing was pioneering. My master's degree research covered explainable AI for regulatory compliance in the financial services sector, and I developed the financial service industry first regulatory framework for management of AI. And actually, everything that I put there in that thesis, in that paper, still holds true today. Little update for IP and copyright laws following the generative AI boom of 2023. And I've got a paper coming out sometime in the next month or two towards algorithm auditing, a survey on managing legal, ethical, and technological business of AI, which I was very honored to produce with Professor Philip Treleaven at UCL and some of his team, Professor Andy Google in Calgary, and a number of other great practitioners. It's a subject that I have a huge passion for, and I'm hoping that by the end of my brief talk, I can instill and inspire some of that passion for working with regulation, with regulators, to develop the next wave of AI revolution, of AI regulation. So, who's noticed a giant storm of AI regulation and principles being published across the planet, even as we speak? Exactly. I think this is an absolutely unprecedented time in regulation. I have never seen so many NGOs, so many countries, so many industry bodies, all working along very harmonized themes. Yes, there are differences, but all working to ensure that we can actually derive the greatest benefit from these incredibly powerful AI technologies. And I would posit to you here today that regulation is on the brink of a transcendent moment. It's not just AI regulation, it's regulation about how our lives should be lived. It's regulation about how our decisions should be made. It's regulation on how to make the world more fair less biased, more transparent in our usage of data, more respectful of people's human rights or people's creator rights of IP. Like, there's never been such a focus in the world on ethics. Take the word AI out, and we're just getting this giant publication all across the world about improving ethical standards of the human species via our AI tools. And as such, it's an incredibly exciting time to be in regulation. Of course, we've seen from our brilliant technologists, it's an incredibly exciting time to be in AI. But what we're really seeing for the first time ever is giant, global, multinational, coordinated effort to raise our standards as a species. And what excites me most is the fairness aspect, is the debiasing. And when people talk about debiasing AI systems, what we mostly mean is identifying those biases which have existed in our organizations for decades, which have been hidden, which are now driving artificial intelligence decision making, and they're now in the light. So we are bringing our biases, our human secrecy, into the light via our AI tools. And I consider this to be one of the great gifts of AI. I see AI as a tremendous beneficial force for humanity, and one of its gifts is bringing us all to common standards of fairness, to diversity, to inclusion, to transparency, to respect for human rights. So I'm now going to do what might be a very dense, dull section, but I'm going to canter through it at an absolute pace. Now, for those of you purists in the room, you'll say, there's no way we can read all the information on that slides. Correct. You're not expected to. We'll share the slides afterwards for anybody who's interested. I'm just going to canter through a bunch of the regulation which is emerging around the world today at huge pace to give a sense of this incredible momentum behind improving all of our decision making, our processes and our technologies. So of course we have the EU Act. Everybody knows the EU Act. I rarely hear anybody being super complimentary about it, but Nuruddin's in the room if you want to talk about the EU AI Act. And what I consider is that the regulation is a product of its people and a product of its culture. And one of the things I notice, I have the great honor to travel the world for SingularityNet. I notice that the fear of AI seems to be most acute in Europe. If I go to Japan, start talking about AI, you could talk to someone about AI for a half hour before somebody says it's scary. Same in Riyadh, same in Dubai. But in Europe, the first comment every single person says to me when I say I work in AI is it's scary. Now, I don't know, I have a personal theory which I can probably never prove, but this is partly because Mary Shelley published Frankenstein in 1818 in Geneva in a dark, volcanic, dark winter. And I think it's really become ingrained in the psyche of Europeans. I don't know, did it ever get to Japan? Did it ever get to Riyadh as a story? But also, as a beautiful lady in Spain explained to me last week, Europe has been under attack. Europe feels under attack. It's a defensive. So it's no surprise, actually, that the European AI Act is the most stringent of all the acts. It covers AI from right through the entire development life cycle. It has very, very stringent risk-based assessments. It has all sorts of fines and litigations attached to it. So that's the EU pioneering, and I did present to the group at the time when they were developing the act, and much of it I agree with. Anyway, just to counter through that, it is a risk-based approach. The EU are also setting up an AI office. They're providing supercomputers for AI startups, which is like one of the really positive aspects of EU regulation. They're providing a lot of innovation, communication, They're working on, of course, it's a risk-based approach. It's got governance, it's got enforcement, it's there to promote investment. So that's EU. I'm going to counter through to CLAD. Just because we're in Panama, I thought I would like to mention the Ibero-American Charter on Artificial Intelligence, which was unanimously approved in November 2023. Its significance is to foster trust and promote human-centric frameworks. And next up, we've got the G7, selected, of course, for their financial impact. They have the Hiroshima AI process, comprehensive risk policy framework on 4 pillars: analysis of risks, challenges, and opportunities, international guiding principles for all AI actors, an international code of conduct, a voluntary code of conduct, and lots of cooperation in support of responsible AI development. Next up, I'm going to touch on the OECD. The OECD, arguably, and speak to the policy experts in the room about this one, but I would say arguably the most mature, the most advanced, the most useful, the most comprehensive AI framework which has been published. They're developing an AI index to be able to track AI and development of AI. What have we got next after the OECD? So let's come into looking at how some countries are adapting to AI. We'll start with Australia. Have we any Australians in the room? Kind of Jasmine. Yeah, you hope. So Australia published a government interim response to safe and responsible AI consultation in January of this year. The government's approach is to prevent harm in high-risk settings, classify and strengthen laws, support the safe development and deployment of AI international. They've introduced new laws to curb danger of high-risk AI. They established a copyright and AI reference group. And we see a lot of focus, a lot of litigation emerging around copyright, use of training data in large language models, and of course, protecting the interests of the creators of that content. Very, very useful. Who would say that regulation to protect the IP rights, the copyright rights of creators is a good thing? How many people think that's good? There we go. I'm winning you over one by one. So we have this. So that's a particularly positive development over the last 6-12 months. Then we have Canada, which is doing lots of wonderful AI regulation. Very slow to the party, but got there in the end. Then we have, let's see, who else do we have besides Canada? China has introduced quite broad sweeping regulation, lots of which is aimed at protecting national interests and banning certain training data sets within China. Where are we next? Japan. So Japan, I'm sorry, I know I'm overrunning, I'm wrapping up fast. Japan introduced the AI Safety Institute. I was out in Japan last year, and they see AI as being the solution to the lost decades. I'm very excited by AI in Japan, for what I've seen, and so on. Nigeria has announced an initiative to bring together 6,000 AI developers of the Nigerian diaspora outside of Nigeria to collaborate and promote AI in Nigeria. Then we have Saudi Arabia working closely with the EU, with the United Kingdom, recent roundtable. UK, well, speak to Marcus Fisher about this one. UK, of course, had the Bletchley Agreement, which got broad international sign-up, and the Safety of AI conference last year. Then we're into the US. Most significantly here, I will say, where am I? Oh, we're pressing the wrong way. Canada, China, Japan, Nigeria, Saudi, UK, US. Most significant, of course, is the AI Act, which is Order 14110 for safe AI usage. And what I really like about this one is it protects the needs of vulnerable groups. and recently announced the NSF are launching a national AI research resource pilot, partnering with other federal agencies and bringing together collaboration and open source development of AI. So, we'll go into those acts, and now I will switch on to what is it all about. It's all about resources, integrity, scalable development. It's about compliance, it's about ethics, it's about precision, it's about transparency and accountability. And the question we're here to ask is, how would regulation respond to AGI? How do any of these themes apply to an AGI that's making its own decisions, that has its own agency? Will the AGI write its own regulation to regulate itself? We don't know, but these are some of the big questions we're going to be asking this week. And now I'm going to ask who loves regulation in the room. Yes, it's a few more. Thank you very much indeed.